For our sprint function, we want to be able to have the player run when they hold down shift and only be able to run when they're not aiming down sight as well. We want to get a hold of their current anim state, and based on their anim state, we want to set up values that will determine the player run speed when they hold down shift. But first, let's go ahead and set up our actual input action. Open up the content drawer inside of the third person folder or wherever you have your inputs. Let's go ahead and open that up inside of the actions. I'm going to go ahead and right click, input, input action. Name this IA underscore sprint. Save all. And then where you have your IMC file, let's go ahead and add in a new mapping. And this would be our IA underscore sprint. And for sprinting, I'm going to use the left shift. Let's go ahead and close this out. We no longer require this. Now let's go back to our content drawer. And before we go ahead and implement our function in our third person, we need to get a hold of our current anim state. So we're going to use an interface function to take care of that. So I'm going to go to the core folder, interfaces, where I have the BPI animation. I'm going to open this up. I'm going to add in a new function, and this would be current anim state. And this is going to have a input, and this would be our anim state of type E underscore anim states. Let's go ahead and compile and save it. Now we need to open up our animation blueprint. The easiest way to do it is to go to your third person character, blueprint, open up your third person character, select the mesh, and then select this browse to asset in content browser icon on your anim class. And then ABP Mani is what we want. Now, in the event graph of your animation blueprint, where you're setting up your anim states, as soon as you set up these anim states, we want to send out a notification to the player to let them know what is our current anim state. So here, I'm going to go ahead and say get player character. Drag off of this, and I'm going to go ahead and call in the current anim state message. I'm going to drag the execution pin from the anim state from both of these functions where we're setting up the anim state. And here, I'm going to drag and connect in the anim state just like this. Every time an anim state changes, it's going to notify our player what is our current anim state. We're going to go ahead and utilize this. So in our third person character, we're going to go to our class settings and then add in our BPI animation interface here. And let's open up that interface and then double click on the current anim state. And that should create a function. And here, I'm just going to go ahead and promote it to a variable. And that's it. So now the third player knows what is our current anim state. Let's go ahead and create the functions to make the player run when they hold down shift. I'm going to actually set it up here where I have our aim set up. So I'm going to right click and then look for the IA underscore sprint function. And we're going to use triggered and canceled. The triggered execution will run every frame while you're holding down the shift button, and then canceled or completed will run when you release the shift button. And we're going to use that to our advantage here. Currently, in my character movement, if I go and search for max walk speed, I have set it to 150. So I want this to be my walk speed for the player. And when they hold down shift, I want this to go all the way up to 500 based on the anim state. We're going to create a function to handle the speed calculation. So here, I'm going to create a new function and say get underscore max walk speed. In our get max walk speed, we're going to go ahead and drag in our anim state, and then we're going to do a select. Now the select node will allow us to determine what speed each and every single anim state should have. So for that, we need to first trigger the float variable for this. So I'm going to create a new variable and name this max walk speed. And another one for base walk speed. Now the base walk speed is going to be 120 for me. And the max walk speed is going to be 500. This is the maximum that the player can go. Now when the player is unarmed, I'm going to allow the player to go all the way up to maximum walk speed. Same for when they are armed with the rifle and armed with the pistol. But when they are aiming down sight, I don't want them to run. So I'm going to go ahead and set this to our base walk speed. And in our blend space, if you remember in our previous tutorial, we set up our blend space for 120 as our maximum speed as well. Now we can do a return node. And then connect this return value here. And then this would be our max walk speed. Just make sure to make this a pure function. Compile and save. In our event graph, where we have our input action here, off of triggered, I want to now gradually increase the speed of the player when they hold down shift rather than doing a quick burst of speed. So first I'm going to get our character movement component, and then off of this I'm going to get our current max walk speed, and I'm going to add let's say increments of 5, and then the result of this I'm going to clamp it with a float with our max walk speed. So it's going to get our current walk speed, which is going to be 120, and it's going to gradually add 5, because off of triggered, it's going to run every single frame. It's going to add 5 to our speed, and then it's going to clamp it to our maximum walk speed based on our animation state right now. And this result, we're going to go ahead and set it up as our character movement speed. So I'm going to get our character component, and I'm going to go ahead and say set max walk speed. And this would be our max walk speed. And I'm going to plug this off of triggered. And I'm going to copy and paste this one more time. And I'm going to connect this to the canceled and also the completed node, where when they stop pressing shift, I want them to go back to the base walk speed. So I'm going to drag and plug in this base walk speed here. And that's all the function that you have to do the whole shift to sprint. So let's go ahead and press play. And here I'm walking at a 120, which is a very good pace. And when I hold down shift, you should see that I'm gradually increasing the speed. And when I release it, I'm going to go straight down to the walking speed. And again, so now I can equip my rifle, and then you can see that I will gradually start running. And when I'm aimed down sight, I won't be able to run. I'm going to be only walking slowly. Same thing for the pistol. Here, I'm going to walk with the pistol. When I hold down shift, I should be able to run with the pistol. And when I aim down sight with the pistol, I shouldn't be allowed to run. And when I go into an unarmed state, I can go back into the running. It's a gradual increase. All right, folks, that's just a quick tutorial on how to do whole shift to sprint functionality for your game. Again, if you don't want it to gradually increase the speed, you can just go ahead and delete this whole thing, and then you can just get this max walk speed and then plug it in here directly. And if we were to play with this, now if I go ahead and press shift, you'll see that I'm running immediately. All right, cool. So thank you very much for stopping by, and I'll catch you on the next one.